Welcome to TCHL 834. It's time to take a look at the final E of the Triple E framework, and this one is called Defining Extension. I love this quote from Bruner that the author used in the textbook. What we resolve to do in school only makes sense when considered in the broader context of what the society intends to accomplish through its educational investment in the young. Interesting, this is from 1966, but we can definitely still apply this to today. And this is really related to the idea of extension. So how are we extending the learning beyond the classroom? And the primary way that we're doing this is really using those real-world problems, right? Making authentic connections through those. How do we bridge everyday life to classroom experiences? And technology can really allow us to do this. And we've seen a number of examples in the textbook. I know you guys are probably doing this daily, really, in your classroom, helping students make those authentic connections. And so when we look at defining extension, we're looking at evaluating how's the technology really assisting us in making those real-world connections. There are a couple things that the author points out in the textbook and also uses on the website when we talk about really the purpose of extension, and I want to spend some time during this video really looking at those. I'm sure you're probably familiar with P21 as the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, 21st Century Learning, and really it primarily has three focuses that we want to look at. The first is students should really develop learning and innovation skills such as critical thinking, communication, creativity, collaboration, okay? And technology can really help us in terms of developing those skills in our students in the classroom. And that's one of the things when we look at extension we want to look at. How is it helping students be collaborative in their learning? How is it helping them think critically? And so that's something we will look at with extension. Second, P21 really focuses on students should develop information, media, and technology skills so that they can quickly adapt to new tools and use current tools for information gathering, dissemination, collaboration. Okay? And so as technology experts in your buildings, in your districts, as you complete this degree, that's a key thing that people will come to you, that they will expect from you, especially as we look at curriculum. How are those technology tools helping students do some of these tasks that we know are critical for those 21st century skills, like information gathering, dissemination, and collaboration? And then third and finally, students need to develop life and career skills, such as the ability to adapt to change, take initiative, work effectively across diverse groups, how students manage projects and produce effective results. We call these the soft skills, okay? And this is something that the 21st Century Skills really focuses on, is those soft skills that get students ready for careers. And this is what extension really focuses on as well. There's some great examples out there of how schools are applying these 21st century skills, and I want to take a look at two of them with you today. The first is a middle school example, and we want to watch this video briefly here, and then we're going to take a look at what these schools are really doing as an exemplary example of those 21st century skills. Yeah, let's see if we can go back there.
If we lose kids in middle school and they're uninspired and they're not engaged in school, high schools can almost never bring them back. It's almost an impossible task to then get them engaged and get them to like school. So we really, at the middle school level, have to make sure that we're focused in on the kids and their passions and inspiring them, because if we don't, we could lose them.
The Danville Diploma is a set of skills that we established here in the Danville Independent School System. And it is what we want our students to be equipped with by the time they graduate from high school.
Usually in classes, they'll put one of the Danville Diploma skills up on the board. Like in science, when we were working on a group project, that was I can work as a good member of a team. A lot of teachers, they base their daily planning off of the Danville Diploma. There will be some times where we'll look over at the Denver diploma and we'll be like, oh, we can base paper off that.
I have my students tell me, what skills do you see that we use today, or what skills do you see that we're going to use during this project?
If you get a diploma from the Danville School District, it says you have these abilities. You can persevere. You're not going to give up. You're going to keep working. That you're a continuous learner. You're going to do all the skills that anybody that would hire someone would want. Or if you're applying for a program in college, I want you because you have the life skills that are going to make you successful.
When kids apply to college, they're applying in their junior year of high school. Going into their senior year of high school, they might be applying. And a lot of them haven't had any experiences to really know where they want to go.
We came up with, the idea, we thought, we have a lot of local businesses. The businesses are always asking us to make sure that they're job ready. So let's send them to work. We can put it close enough, 7 period, and we'll let them go out each day, and they'll get some real life experience. We decided that we wanted kids to realize that what we teach them here at school is something you need to be able to do anywhere.
And if you do an internship, you realize, I need these communication skills. I need these math skills. I'm actually going to be using them. The more experiences that are real world we can give kids at a younger age, the better off they're going to be. Because if they find something they love, they can really pursue that passion and have a firm foundation when they either go to the job force or when they go to college.
In order to get students engaged and involved in a project, it needs to be centered around them. What are they interested in? Hook them into what you're doing. But most importantly, let them make choices.
There will be certain independent projects. There will be certain things where they're like, you know what, you take what I'm going to give you and make something. Do something with it. And it makes it to where you can really express yourself.
One of the best things about project-based learning and student choice is that the kids go so much further than the teachers would have ever gotten them to go if they had just scripted exactly where they want the kids to go.
Last year I had this kid make this potato launcher, and he was doing some high-level physics, and he went over the top, and he was one of my best presenters. And in class, he was a B student in an accelerated class. He ended up having the best presentation, probably the best project out of all my accelerated kids, because he picked it.
It's fun to pick your own project because you usually pick something that you're interested in, and you learn a lot about one certain topic.
If students don't have a choice and we script everything that they do, then they're never making any of their own decisions. And we don't ever want to spoon feed kids. We want them thinking and making choices and doing things that they like.
And it lets them see that there's other ways to learn stuff. So in the future, in high school and college, it lets you learn what your strengths are. And it's good to know what your strengths are early in life because that's going to pay off.
I think that's a great example of how a middle school is really applying these 21st century skills. A couple keywords that stood out to me, and we're going to get into more detail in this in a little bit, but helping kids find their passion, teaching them about perseverance. And there were some great ways that they did this through project-based learning. The internship is an interesting concept, especially at the middle school level. We don't always see that as something we do in middle school. We kind of save that for high school age students. But really helping even those middle school students kind of guide them and see how they're applying these, they can apply these skills to a job environment, helping them start looking at what their interests are outside of school, and just really developing a whole student here with those 21st century skills. Now I want to take a look at another example here, and this is an elementary example of how they're applying the 21st century skills.
These children need a culture around them that nurtures them, and I think that is what the Dana approach is. It's a very holistic approach to educating children and providing for their social development, building their confidence, helping them see themselves as leaders and believe that they are learners, believe that they have a future, to know that they're in a community that believes in them and cares about them.
When you think about about 21st century learning skills, you're thinking of inquiry and critical thinking and collaboration. It's just naturally the way elementary school students are.
My group is doing a project on the nervous system. I like working in groups because lots of kids synergize and the projects are really fun.
Project-based learning is very engaging to students, and I think the biggest reason why is because it feels more real and they are actively doing something.
I'm pretty sure in college you also have to work in groups, and I'll know to put first things first and cooperate with my team.
It's very engaging for the students, and the best way to get them interested in learning is to have their full engagement. They're going to be interested in the things that interest them, and they need to have some choice about their learning. There are standards they have to be taught, but how they apply those standards, that is what we do in real life. And so I consider that to be a very important 21st century skill.
Most of my work that goes into project-based learning goes into the creation and setup of the task. It is all about them and their teams, and they're figuring things out, and they're asking the questions, and they're searching for answers. And at that point, my role shifts to being a coach and a facilitator and helping them to make sure they are on the right track, but it's coming from them. We do a lot of collaboration as a grade level team and vertical teams also, which is across multiple grade levels.
Before we do anything, we spend a lot of time talking about it and researching it and trying to come up with what is our purpose for this, and was this going to meet our needs? And when we thought about purchasing iPads and other technology, we had conversations like, what do we want them to do with this? And what we decided is that we didn't want them to be one-on-one with a device, because we want them to keep communicating. We want them to keep collaborating. So we have one for every maybe 6 students. The technology is used as a collaboration and communication tool instead of a child being sucked into this device, as you know, that can happen.
We have almost 550 students in the school, and each one of them gets teacher attention, but in order to be an independent learner, they need to be a self-assessing learner. We use rubrics quite a bit, so the students know before they do a project or before they complete an assignment what the rubric will look like and what they're going to be assessed on.
A rubric is something that you check to make sure you got it right, because when it gets graded, you can get points, and you want to get the highest points.
We set goals everywhere, and we base our goals on data collection. So teachers set personal goals and they set professional goals. We encourage our students to set personal goals and academic goals. We base our curriculum on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Sean Covey and the Franklin Covey Institute.
Well, we have 7 habits. The purpose of the habits is to encourage us to be leaders.
Being proactive is the one that mostly helps me, because being proactive means you do your homework, like always, you be a good leader always, and you pay attention always.
We don't focus so much on what we're doing to prepare them for the next grade level. We talk to our students about what are we doing to prepare you for life. So we talk to them about college or careers. We don't focus so much on this is going to prepare you for EOG, this is going to prepare you for 4th grade, this is going to prepare you to be a citizen, or this is going to prepare you for life.
I'd like to study 3 years of dentistry, and I'd like to be a dentist.
I want to be a doctor when I grow up, and I think Dana helps us by encouraging us to follow directions and the math skills and the reading skills, and helping us reach our goals.
Because we are in a knowledge-based society and we are in a technological society, we want them to know how to solve problems, to be creative problem solvers. We're preparing them for jobs that we don't even know exist yet. And if we can teach them at an early age to be independent thinkers and critical thinkers, to know how to communicate with those around them and to be creative in their problem solving, then we are preparing them for life instead of just for middle school and high school.
So great examples here of 21st century skills. Gosh, we could probably spend half an hour just talking about what these 2 schools are doing to apply these. But it's really interesting if you listen to what they're saying. Their main goals are really preparing students for the workforce, for jobs that we don't even know exist, but for really developing those soft skills that we know are going to help students be successful after school. And a couple things that really stood out to me in this elementary school example was first the technology use and how they really debated that one-to-one access. And their ultimate goal was fostering collaboration, right, and communication. And they realized in one-to-one access, they're really not allowing students to do that. So they kind of reduced the access that students have so that they're having to share devices and work together. The other thing that was interesting is really looking at how they develop curriculum, how they do it in vertical teams and horizontal teams by grade level, and how their technology coordinator or support person, her job is really, looking at what kinds of 21st century skills they want students to learn and how to design those project-based learning experiences. And really spending a lot of upfront time designing that so that we know as students go through them, we're really working on those key skills of, producing, disseminating information, collaborating, communicating, being creative, helping students find things that they're interested in. So these are just two great examples. There's a lot of videos out there that you can access through the EEE framework and through the 21st century website. There's a link on the instructional materials for this module that you can take a look at. But if I didn't hit maybe your grade level, maybe you're more of a secondary high school, there's some great high school examples out there that really are worth going out and taking a look at. The other thing that the author doesn't talk much about in the book, but talks a lot about through the EEE framework website, is this whole concept of grit. And this is a soft skill that schools are really starting to look at. And Angela Duckworth is the author of this book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. And she's done a lot of research into what makes people successful, what skills make them successful. And it was really interesting. I did not read the full book, but I want to go back and read it. But I read kind of a condensed version of it that you can access on Amazon for a few bucks, and just kind of gives you a condensed version of each chapter. But it really gave me some insight into what kind of research she did to define what grit is, and then how does that impact our students? How can we help them have more grit? What does that look like when they get out of school? So the first study that she did is she went to West Point, and we all know that West Point grads are probably some of the most highly successful people in our country. And she looked at how they evaluate and predict the success of people coming into West Point as students. And they're kind of given this what's called a whole candidate score. So it's a combination of SAT scores, fitness remarks, leadership potential. They take all of this into consideration and give them this combination of a score called a whole candidate score. And what West Point was finding is they were not able to make good predictions on who was going to be successful completers of their program with this whole candidate score. And they just couldn't predict success. And so what Angela Duckworth did is she gave students a grit assessment and found that it was a much better indicator of success at West Point. And grit, as we can define it, is really, it's those soft skills of perseverance and passion. Those two really critical skills for our students to learn. And passion, is really just developed, it's developed by interacting with the outside world to really see what interests you. And that's the neat thing when you look back at those videos we just watched, for example, in the middle school one, allowing students to go out and do internships at that 7th, 8th grade level, really start interacting with the outside world, see what they're passionate about. What research tells us is that only 13% of people are actually engaged in their jobs. They're passionate about what they do. But we know that if we can match people with jobs that match their interests, they're much more likely to be satisfied and be successful in the workplace. And so really, schools are starting to look at this as kind of part of their all-encompassing job of preparing students. It's not only preparing them academically, but preparing them with these soft skills of, for example, perseverance and passion. So one of the ways that the author talked about how we can really do this, and she kind of breaks this down through various stages of life, how we develop grit. But then she also has a chapter just for parents on parenting and how to help your child develop grit. And the two big things that she talked about was encouragement and positive feedback. That just really helps those interests that students have thrive. So really giving them that encouragement to go out and explore things they're interested in, having project-based learning activities where they can have some choice in what they're doing, and then really giving them positive feedback on what worked and what didn't work. Really can help students develop this grit. If you have time and this is a concept that's interesting to you, interesting to how you would apply it to your classroom, I would definitely recommend looking more into this. And there is a video that you can watch in the instructional materials where Angela Duckworth really lays out what grit is and kind of the research behind it. And then there's also a link to some more materials that are available there. So when we as technology experts look at really evaluating tools that foster extension, we look at allowing students to learn 24/7, okay? So if a tool allows a student to learn outside of the classroom, they're able to extend that learning, then we look at that as a tool that's going to foster extension. The other thing is it bridging those everyday experiences with school learning. So we know we have things like video conferencing tools, right, where we can connect experts out in the field to what we're learning in this during the school day. That's a great example of a tool that would foster extension. And then tools that really help us with those everyday soft skills, so those skills of collaboration and communication, looking at information and analyzing information. Those are all tools that are going to really help us in terms of fostering extension. And during this module, you're going to take a closer look at those tools, and we're going to have a discussion about kind of the tools you're using in class and how you're using those to foster extension. So when we get to the framework, the EEE framework, we have 3 questions we would ask ourselves when we're looking at measuring extension of learning. Okay. First one is, does the technology create opportunities for students to learn outside of their typical school day? So is this something they can do when they're at home, when they're with their family, when they're outside of the classroom? Can they access it? Okay. Second question is, does the technology create a bridge between school learning and everyday life? Again, kind of like that example I gave of using maybe Skype to connect to experts out in the field. That would be a yes to that question. And then third, does the technology allow students to build skills that they can use in their everyday lives? So really looking at those soft skills, even those soft skills of grit that we talked about, the perseverance, the passion, is it allowing students to really develop those skills? So as we go through this module and we really think about extension, we really want to think about these 3 keywords: outside, a bridge, and everyday skills. So as you get into the activity for this module and you take a look at the other resources that are available, please spend some time doing that. You want to really be thinking about those 3 keywords and how the tool that you have in mind and that you're using in the activity or the assignment really addresses those 3 key ideas.